Zionism is a death cult. I saw this tweet that said, I don't know how many people noticed this, but the genocide in Gaza began when the number of Palestinians between the river and the sea equaled or surpassed the number of Jews. According to Zionist ideology, Jewish people have to outnumber the Palestinian population in Palestine in order to justify the existence of a Jewish majority state. To Zionists, Palestinians being alive and having kids is a threat to that Jewish majority. So their solution is to kill as many Palestinians as they can. And they admit it. In 2004, Zionist demographer Arnon Sofer worried openly about Palestinians being the demographic majority in Palestine. In an article titled, "It's the Demography, Stupid," he said, when 2.5 million people live in a closed-off Gaza, it's going to be a human catastrophe. If we want to remain alive, we will have to kill and kill and kill. All day, every day. If we don't kill, we will cease to exist. As journalist and author Ali Abunimah recalls in his great book, The Battle for Justice in Palestine, war criminal and former Zionist Prime Minister Golda Meir hated Palestinians so much that she lost sleep over the thought of them being born. The Palestinians' birth rate was so much higher than the Jews that Golda Meir's sleep was often disturbed, she would say, at the thought of how many Arab babies had been born in the night. Golda Meir was so racist that the mere thought of Palestinians being born kept her up at night. If only it kept her up long enough so she would die prematurely. Today, the demographics in Palestine looks something like this. The Jewish population enjoys privileged status wherever they live between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea, while the majority population, the Palestinians, are discriminated against in every aspect of life, including in education, housing, employment, and legal proceedings. In order for Israel to create the demographics of a Jewish majority state, during the 1948 Nakba, Zionist militias violently killed and expelled more than 750,000 Palestinians from their homes. As a result, today at least 6 million Palestinians live as refugees all over the world and in refugee camps in Lebanon, Jordan, and Syria, waiting to return to their homes in what is now called Israel. Many families have kept the old keys to their homes for 77 years, passing them on to their children and grandchildren, hoping one day they would be allowed to return. Those who managed to survive the Nakba and stayed in towns under Israel's control are continuously targeted, harassed, and forcibly expelled from their homes they've lived in for hundreds of years, because of the Zionist state's desire to Judaize the demographic composition of the apartheid state. This is what Palestinians and their allies mean when they say the Nakba didn't just happen once in 1948, but is ongoing. Here's Congressmember Rashida Tlaib, the only anti-Zionist member of Congress, sharing her family's story of surviving the 1948 Nakba.
My grandfather was shot 11 times because he refused to leave his home. They put him in a car and they dumped him far away and everything. He survived, but that's back when they didn't have the kind of weapons they have now. And even in the story, I remember my mother saying, we just kept begging him to leave, and he wouldn't leave. Everybody had left to Jordan, but see that she wouldn't leave, he wouldn't leave. He's like, I'm not leaving. He was so latched on to his trees, who his family before him, his father, everybody planted. He's like, I'm not leaving the olive tree farm. I'm not leaving these trees. He was so connected. I mean, if you ever see some of the Palestinian people grabbing on to their tree, it's because to them it's an extension of who they are. It's their family. And so the more we can tell our stories in that way, I think the more we can connect with so many people and grow this movement to try to save lives.
But the crime of the 1948 Nakba didn't stop Palestinians from exercising their right to live. Zionist groups openly worried about the Palestinian population outpacing the reproduction rate of the Jewish population, buying ad space to advertise their racist concerns in the racist American newspaper, the New York Times. You can see the ad they made here on the screen, and in the middle, a population breakdown between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea, showing the Jewish population decreasing over time. At the bottom it says, without a two-state solution, Israel will end up as a binational state, half Jewish, half Arab. In a few more years, it will be too late. The dream of a Jewish state will be lost. Mr. Prime Minister, your people want to live in a Jewish state, not half Jewish, half Arab. You can make it happen. Separation today means a Jewish majority state of Israel now and for generations ahead. It's time for separation, 2 states for 2 people. The language was eerily identical to racist segregationist George Wallace, who said, segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. Unfortunately, Palestine isn't the first case of a racist state trying to manipulate its demographics. As Ali Abunimah recalls in his great book, One Country, the Walloons in Belgium also used similar tactics against the Flemish. The French-speaking Walloons wanted to deny the Dutch-speaking Flemish political representation, control, and decision-making power, so they instituted policies that physically segregated, starved, and denied them their basic rights, forcing them to physically concentrate in smaller and smaller concentration camps, hoping that the Flemish would just die off and thereby never become the political majority. For 77 years, Zionism's methods of violently engineering a Jewish majority have included the calculated starvation, murder, incarceration, and expulsion of the indigenous Palestinian population, which is why a ceasefire is not enough. A ceasefire will never be enough. As the brilliant scholar Dr. Ghada Sassa says, Gaza gets to breathe for a couple of days, but we keep pushing for the freedom of Palestinian prisoners, the abolition of Israeli torture dungeons, the end of occupation, equality, and the return of homes and lands to their rightful owners. For the survivors of the Gaza Holocaust, for humanity, and for the world, our job is to make sure that the eugenicist project of Zionism ends for good, that justice is served for the criminals who perpetuated and profited off of it, and that all Palestinians are finally allowed to return to their homes that were stolen from them in 1948, with comprehensive reparations, as had been done previously for the victims of the genocide in Bosnia, where 500,000 refugees returned to their original homes with support and backing by the entire international community. There is no peace without justice, and there is no justice without return. Evil, eugenicist, demographic genocide has no place in any world worth living in. Since Zionism sees all Palestinians as a demographic threat, we too have to become a demographic threat to Zionism until Palestine is finally democratic and free from the river to the sea.